White is doing at Georgia this year, who just was able to go into Oxford and beat Kermit Davis. But when Mike White was receiving a little pressure at Florida, people didn't talk about the fact that Keontae Johnson went down that year. We see what type of impact he's making at Kansas State. Injuries make a difference. The same thing with Coach Cal at Kentucky, guys being in and out. You have to evaluate people based on the players they're able to put out on the floor, their finalized product, not the ebbs and flows of what goes on through a season when they don't have those players participate.
Now, last year they were beset by a number of injuries. This year, Deshaun Ruffin was back, clearly not completely back yet. He's out with illness for the second straight game, so they're trying to kind of figure things out without him. Remember, most of us thought Deshaun Ruffin and Matthew Morrell would comprise one of the top backcourts in the SEC this year, and it hasn't worked out that way yet. Right from downtown, finds the triple. That's Jacoby Wright out of Fort Mill, South Carolina.
What a job by Lamont Paris, huh? Out of that timeout, he changed up the defense a little bit, and now he's running quality sets, getting his guys some good looks. And as you said earlier, as they shoot the basketball better, he told us they defend the basketball better.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works. Just you get the confidence going on one end, it picks up on the other. Three from the corner, an air ball, and loose ball fought 4-and-1 by Carter. And then Carter tripped and a foul on Ole Miss.
You know, we often talk about the basketball not sticking. You see the good penetration, boom, quick passes from side to side. It doesn't allow Matthew Morrell to get back to Chico Carter because of how quickly the basketball was moving. I'm sorry, Jacoby Wright. So when you're able to move that basketball, it makes it much more challenging for defenders to get inside out of the paint and try to close out. Ole Miss did a phenomenal job of that in that particular play.
Of course, after a stint as a head coach, UT Chattanooga and NCAA tournament last year, longtime assistant at Wisconsin. And you best believe when you're at Wisconsin, look at that! G.G. Jackson with some action, a tomahawk slam and a timeout Ole Miss.
Well, you can see that this is the team that was able to go to Rupp Arena and knock this on helping, and Fagan just really didn't stick with G.G. Jackson. And as a result, a little showtime here at Colonial Life Arena.
Well, it kind of goes in line, as I was rudely interrupted by a highlight slam by G.G. Jackson. If you go back to Coach Paris, his lineage going back to Wisconsin, I mean, you're talking about NCAA tournament teams, you're talking about back-to-back Final Four teams, you're talking about Coach Ryan, a great guy to have some tutelage with. They run good stuff. I mean, they're going to run good stuff here at South Carolina. They're going to run good stuff in the half court. Eventually, they'll be more of a transition team. It's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page, and eventually, he's going to get his players in here.
There you go, right? He talked to us about that earlier. He said, you know, for a period of time, he changed his offense a little bit, you know, to really work better for the players that he currently has. And then he said, then I started to slowly but surely implement what we want to really play long term, and the players picked that up, and now he's committed to that so he can begin to build a program in the direction that he wants it to go.
Trying to pick up his first ever conference win in this building. There's an open 2. That is a deep 2 for Brakefield, the former Duke Blue Devil.
I love this basketball game. You got Brakefield pointing to the crowd, telling them to be quiet, to shush. You've got G.G. Jackson blowing kisses.
Carolina has tasted what a big win feels like at Kentucky, and Ole Miss is hungry for that first conference win. Chico Carter, 49% from downtown this season.
Yeah, 43 over his career. And man, is he playing with a lot of confidence here of late, Mike.
Of course, played for Coach McMahon, now the LSU coach. Back when he was at Murray State, timeout on the floor, a 3-point game.
Well, it's beginning to heat up on both sides of the floor. Brakefield in the corner, the southpaw with the three-pointer, shifting the crowd here in Colonial Life Arena, and then Mr. Carter with the answer. A little different than the pavilion, right?
Oh, the pavilion's beautiful.
Beautiful. And the fact of the matter is You know, in college basketball this year, and that's one of the things that Texas A&M and the Aggies have going for them right now, you have to show up to play every single game. You just can't take a night off. There's too much parity in the game of basketball. And you see Coach Kermit Davis over there. He was probably the most feared coach in the SEC before he got to the SEC. You know, you think about the job that he did, the upsets that he had in the NCAA tournament, and now that he's gotten to the SEC, I just think he's got to continue to get his system going, his players going, and get back to where he was in that very first year.
Back-to-back NCAA tournament upsets while he was the head coach at Middle Tennessee, including against the number 2 seed, Michigan State. Right. Left that one short, chases down, and almost had the rebound. Instead, Ole Miss will corral it along the baseline. It's Matthew Morrell. Let's see where Ole Miss turns for offense here. They want to see Morrell go to the rim more. Here you see him at the top and takes a deep jumper. Now, we know he's got that in his bag, Fish, and that's 2 points. That's great, but maybe a little more attacking the rim as well.
Well, he's been very good from 2-point range. It's 3-point range where he struggled. Going into the Georgia game, I think he was 6 of 46 from 3 over those last 5 or 6 games. And so, as a shooter, you've got to know what's working and what's not working, and that's the decision-making that Matthew Morrell's got to deal with tonight.
Here's G.G. Jackson flying in. That's going to be an over-the-back call on Davis.
And I love the fact that, you know, even though college coaches would say this is the worst shot in college basketball, even though his foot was on the line, he made the shot, right? I'd rather a guy make the shot with his foot on the line than be concerned about the shot behind the line and miss it.
Yeah, exactly. The worst shot in basketball is a miss. If you're
an air ball.
Right, exactly.
A bad miss.
Deep 2s are still okay in my book. 10 and a half to go, 4-point game. Got McInnes on a post. Instead goes to the other big. That's Mbala.
It's good defense by South Carolina.
Shot clock down to 7. McInnes lost it. And a reach-in foul call. Terry Oglesby, Orlandis Poole, KB Burdett Jr. are officials tonight.
Yeah, Orlandis Poole and KB Burdett actually on the flight over. We're looking forward to this basketball game.
They were on our flight?
Yeah.
I was just happy we had a flight where the captain didn't have to say, by the way, we have no hydraulics, which was the case when you and I went to Texas A&M.
You were scared, man. You were scared, Mike. Be honest, man. You're nervous.
Absolutely. You kidding me? I haven't even written out my will yet. Air travel's been very interesting here in 2023. Inside,
like that.
Dangerous play. Nearly leapfrogging on the play was Mbala, senior out of France, transfer from Buffalo.
Well, it was a nice slip of the screen, and Mbala obviously just trying to discourage and go for the block. But as you said, he's fortunate that he didn't end up hurting himself.
Bozeman's Verdunk, transfer from Illinois. Gets a friendly bounce off the back iron on the free throw. He shoots 58% on the year. One thing Coach Paris told us earlier in the year, when he got the job, they didn't hit the portal like some of the other first-year coaches did. Not nearly as many guys that entered, and so it's kind of a depleted roster, but he'll tell you, we're hitting it this time around. They are certainly going to be in the market for some players to come to Columbia. Good chance they'll have a lot of the players on this roster back for another year, so you have some foundation builders on the roster, and then you'll bring in some guys to complement them.
Well, he was obviously successful at Chattanooga, but as you mentioned with Bo Ryan, I love the fact that he's bringing that style to the SEC, and he'll bring it even more as he continues to get more of his players here at South Carolina.
He was an assistant for Bo Ryan, that Wisconsin team in the Final Four that knocked off 38-0 Kentucky.
Sure.
That was a team that seemed destined to win a national championship. Would have been the second for Coach Cal. That's going to be a walk or a carry. We'll Taking a walk that time by James White. And that'll be the third turnover on Ole Miss.
Yeah, he kind of drugged that foot a little bit on the catch, was trying to decide if he was going to shoot or put it on the bounce and use the shot fake. But I'm thoroughly impressed by both of these teams. You don't see any discouragement in regards to body language, and I think because it's still so early, you know, Lamont Paris actually said he used the analogy of the golf course, right? He said, you know, you got 18 holes in golf, and fortunately you have 18 games in SEC play.
That's right.
So he said we still got plenty of holes on the backside to play.
Well, they had the hole-in-one at Rupp Arena, right? That's your hole-in-one. You don't get to come away at a Rupp Arena with a whole lot of W's if you're an SEC opponent. And then you've had a few what we call blow-up holes. Triple bogeys, more like it, in the case of A&M and Tennessee. I mean, I can relate to this as a very bad golfer. And this game right now, I think both teams are playing even par. Yeah. Well, for most people who may not know, Patrick Young was a prolific golfer. And I'm hoping that he'll let the viewers know at halftime his furthest drive that he's ever had. I won't relinquish the number that you told us earlier. That's crazy. I mean, I thought he was going to put Tiger Woods to shame. Yeah, no kidding. Slipping and hitting the deck hard that time was James White. Looks like he's okay. Shot clock at 10 for the Rebels. The ball was moving much better earlier. Starting to stick now on this end for Ole Miss. Good pass. Great feed from White inside to McInnes. I think Coach Kermit Davis has found him something in James White. Played well, even in their loss to Georgia. And you can tell when young players begin to gain some more confidence. 8 early points for McInnes, and then happy feet on the other end for G.G. Jackson. Well, we said that James White is a shooter, and shooters are floor spacers. And just like C.J. Frederick, who at Kentucky can use a shot fake and get into the teeth of the defense, or he's a guy that you may have to guard a little bit closer that allows slashing lanes for other people. James White has had that type of impact tonight for the Rebels. One of the guys you and I asked Kermit about today at shoot-around was James White. And I think you and I talked to a lot of the same people before the season started. We kept hearing a lot of great things about James White. Sure. That this was going to be a big year for him. Woo! Nice play that time by Morrell. Not a great start to the season for White. But Kermit told us, yeah, he's earned a start tonight. He's really played hard the last couple of games. And I still have a lot of confidence in that young man. Well, Kermit's an old school coach, and so how you practice, he believes, is how you're going to play a lot of the times. And that's why he's still got confidence in his guys. And one of his guys where his confidence hasn't lingered is Matthew Morrell. A little hang time and a little English off of the window. To come to the Southeastern Conference, once again leading the way, top 100 recruits, and here they are on your all-freshman team. Yeah, we played an early conference schedule, but as you look through the year, these are some guys that have really stepped out to me. Different situations, right? Julian Phillips surrounded by veterans at Tennessee. He's able to come along at his own pace. Anthony Black really at a leadership role as well. Wallace over at Kentucky, you know, he's got some veterans around him, but he's having to take more of a dominant role. Nobody's taking more of a dominant role than G.G. Jackson on this team. You think about Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney, both at Alabama working together, but they've got guys that are veterans as well, like a Mark Sears that's there, a Noah Gurley, a Javon Quitterly. So these freshmen are thriving in different environments. Here is G.G. Jackson, bumped and fouled. You saw in that graphic, G.G. Jackson, the highest rated recruit in the history of Gamecock athletics. Now, they've only been keeping tabs on that type of number for the last couple of decades. Talking with the legendary Casey Manning here in his, there he is. There's Casey there in the middle. Retired judge now, and he doesn't know what he's going to do with retired life. I mean, he's been doing double duty for so many years as Carter misfires on the three. But he pointed out back before they kept those rankings, guys like Kevin Joyce, Tom Riker, all those Frank McGuire players. There were a number of top recruits back in the day that came here to Columbia. We just didn't have the great Paul Biancardi to evaluate him back then. No doubt. Morrell on a triple. By the way, Morrell's, that deep two we were talking about, on review, they wound up looking at it again and gave him a 3. So it's an 8-point game. 23-15, Ole Miss on top, under 7 to play. Uh-oh. Put him on skates that time, did Johnson, but can't finish on the shot.
Well, we spoke about freshmen earlier. Amari Abram really getting a chance to flourish with Deshaun Ruffin out with an illness right now. He's kind of been in and out of the starting lineup. But this is a great opportunity for him to really establish himself as he did earlier in the season as a leader, as a quarterback, as a captain on this basketball team.
4th team foul on Carolina. That's on Hayden Brown, his first. Off the inbounds, the cut, and the look was there, just not the finish by Brakefield.
Yeah, too easy, but certainly bailed out.
Gamecocks have missed their last 5 field goals. Trying to get a bucket here. Stop the bleeding a little bit, and that's not going to do it. Backcourt violation.
Coach Paris having a little heart-to-heart with Terry Oglesby, saying, are you sure that was backcourt? We need every point we can get.
Well, and this is the mark of a team that, again, still trying to find itself, does not have a ton of scorers on the roster. This Gamecock team will go into scoring droughts, and that's what's happening right now in the middle of a drought where they have not scored a field goal in over 6 minutes.
Well, let's be honest about the build here. The South Carolina Gamecocks have been to one NCAA tournament on the men's side in 18 years. Now, what an incredible run that was by Frank Martin. But he's not going to build this program to the heights that the fans want him to overnight.
Right.
But as he told us earlier, he has a plan. You've got to get that plan time and allow him time to develop it.
Wild pass out of bounds by Michi Johnson. And he knows he's got the support of the administration, that they understand this is not going to be a one-year turnaround. I think that applies. You and I have seen just about every team in this league now with all the first-year coaches.
Sure.
And so much of what one is going through, the other is going through, right? It's just there's going to be a lot of valleys that you have to fight through on the way back. Open 3. That's Abram, the talented freshman, out of Port Arthur, Texas, and that's the largest lead for Ole Miss.
You know, you look at some of the coaches, and particularly, let's go to Auburn, and you look at Coach Bruce Pearl, who everybody would say he's one of the best rebuilders in the country. But he didn't get it done overnight.
Nope.
It took him time. I remember when Auburn made won 2 or 3 games in the SEC tournament, and he got some momentum then. Then he got some players to get in the basketball game. Well, they've got the best record over the last 5 seasons, the most wins in the SEC, but it took him time to get there.
Takes some time. It took over 7 minutes for the Gamecocks to get a field goal. Hayden Brown, the 24-year-old, 6 years older than Gigi, hits that shot. Back to a 9-point game. Morrell hounded by Brown. Morrell crossover, pull up 3, back iron, tapped out into the hands of Wright.
Excellent defense by Hayden Brown. You can see how much he was missed in that Texas A&M game.
Deep 3 on the way. Johnson. I was watching Johnson shoot around today, and he was practicing from there. My only question about that is, Fish, you could move up 3 feet and still get 3 points, right?
Ever since Steph Curry, everybody
wants
Damian Lillard, everybody wants to shoot from half court.
Right. Johnson on the rebound. Michi, who played brilliantly in that win against Kentucky. They're going to need him in this game to come up large. That man, too, Jackson. Right now, Gigi a little bit discouraged, off to a 2 for 6 start for the field.
Well, right now, the Gamecocks working too much as individuals. Need to do a bit better job, and I think that's what probably Coach Paris is saying. You know, next time down, let's see if we can run something to work together as a unit, which is what Kermit Davis and the Rebels are doing on this particular trip.
Akuba gets a paint touch, goes to work, missed it. Second effort, and a foul call will send Brakefield to the free throw line, and that will bring us to immediate timeout with 3:19 to go. Rebels up by 9. Get your ice cream, young man.
Georgia, Kentucky, also an ending last night in Fayetteville. Wow, what do you see from Ole Miss here?
Ole Miss is doing a fantastic job defending South Carolina and also knocking down a lot of tough shots.
Their offense looks to be flowing. Fish, what's been the difference tonight in Ole Miss's offense?
It's a great question, Pat Bradley. The difference has been two things. One, they've absolutely just made shots. Shot making is so key. They've been running great plays all year long. But two is their ability to get out in transition and offensive rebound. Because I think those are a couple of things that they really haven't done consistently all year long. When you're not making shots, there's no reason you shouldn't attack the glass when you've got guys like McInnes and Brayfield and Matthew Morrell. They've got long, athletic dudes. But you know, the elephant in the room is 10 of 23. That's pretty good shooting from the field.
Certainly beats 7 of 21, which is where Carolina is right now. Morrell, 7 points, 5 rebounds. So he has brought his A game. You and I have been, I think like a lot of people that cover this league have been waiting for Matthew Morrell to just burst out and be a top-notch SEC player. And it flashes like it's in there, but it's not always there.
Sure.
I think sometimes the question becomes like, how can you get it there more consistently?
Well, I think for him, he has one of two options. Because of the way he struggled from behind the three-point line, as a player, if I wasn't making shots, I would spend more time in the gym. And when I say more time in the gym, that's not just practice time. You've got to get in there where it's just you and a manager, you and a friend, where you're getting up 500-plus shots a day until you get it right, seeing it go through the net. Or number two, you have to adjust your game and attack the basket, be relentless, get to the free throw line, and just don't settle for those three-point shots unless you're wide open.
Suffocating defense by Ole Miss. And Michi gets the timeout with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And 2:50 to go here in the half, so you'll have time to inbound it, maybe one pass at the most, and then a shot. Don't forget, coming up next, Brandon Miller leading number 4 Alabama. The Tide have won 6 in a row against Liam Robbins and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt just knocked out Arkansas the other night. That'll be at 8:30 Eastern time right here on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. Anybody is playing better basketball in the country than Alabama. Just scary length. And Brandon Miller, the #1 scoring freshman in all of college basketball.
Yeah. Purdue playing extremely well. Was able to sneak out a win over at Michigan State. Zach Edey still playing extremely well. Now, job Matt Painter's doing with a young backcourt with those freshmen. But yeah, Alabama's a team who's not only proven that they can beat anybody, but it looks like every time they step in between the lines, they're still getting better.
Yeah.
And with close to 50% of their scoring coming from freshmen, that's what makes the Tide an extremely scary team to wonder if they can stay healthy, what they will look like come March.
No doubt about that. Quick catch and shoot, not a bad look, but a miss and a rebound for Robert Allen. 10-point game, under 3 minutes to go here in the first half. Couple of teams trying to get some confidence going in conference play. The gauntlet of an 18-game league schedule. You don't know how many chances at a W you're going to get. Three from the wing is nothing but bottoms for TJ Caldwell. That's the other talented freshman out of Dallas, and that's the largest lead for Ole Miss.
This Rebel team certainly has pieces, and they're starting to display those pieces in this basketball game today. This is what I mean when I say the basketball can't stick as much. Good movement, good ball reversal, extremely quick. There was no hesitation by Robert Allen, a veteran who's now healthy for Ole Miss. But you think back to this Rebel team, Mike, and they played some of the best in the league. You mentioned Alabama. They played on the road at Alabama, Tennessee at home, Auburn. So they faced some of the top teams in the SEC, you know, in conference play right now.
Yeah, that's just a brutal stretch. And for those that thought Georgia was just going to be a lapper this year, Mike White had other ideas. He might be the top candidate for SEC Coach of the Year with the job he's done early on in Athens. Alley-oop pass from Allen goes awry. Gamecocks have not hit a field goal. In 10 and a half minutes now. 10 and a half minutes without a basket. I thought that was a typo when I first saw it. Inside, a block, but a foul. Trip to the free throw line for Bozeman's Verdonk.
Well, that's what I meant when I talked about those freshmen, Mike. I don't think there's any freshman in this league that really has to carry the torch like G.G. Jackson. No, I don't think there's any freshman in this league playing better than Brandon Miller.
Right.
But Brandon Miller has so much help. He's got guys that get him the basketball at the right time. You know, he's got defenders who help him, like a Charles Bediako. G.G. Jackson, he's having to do the rebounding, the distributing of the basketball, the scoring, the rim protection. He's having to do just a little bit of everything.
And he knew that when he came here, that this was not going to be, as maybe, dare I say, easy a situation as some of the other places. He was recruited by everybody in the world, but he wanted to stay home. Father, who was a great football player for the state of South Carolina. You talk to that young man. I mean, G.G. Jackson is what you hope to have in terms of character, personality. Very coachable for a young man who's got a whole lot of hype coming in. That'll be another turnover on Carolina. That's 5 turnovers. Shooting the basketball poorly. Just been a tough half for this Gamecock unit.
I thought Orlando's Poole was going to run into Kermit Davis on that play. Kermit Davis almost went over and called the walk himself.
I think advantage Orlando's Poole. If those two collide, even if Kermit is in good position, I think I'm giving Orlando's the edge.
You know, you look all across college basketball, whether it's UConn in the Big East, Arkansas, you know, here in the SEC, your schedule when you begin league play matters, right?
No doubt.
You know, some teams have gotten off to a terrific start in the league, but their back stretch is challenging.
Numbers and the finish. I think the crowd was anticipating a Davis alley-oop to G.G., which would have been showtime, but Zachary Davis says, no, I got this, the freshman out of Orangeburg.
Yeah, he actually had a good game, right? He led the team with the career high against A&M, and Mont Paris is rewarding him with playing time. I like him on the front of that 1-3-1 zone.
The play for the final shot, the Gamecocks can, down 10.
South Carolina's long right now. G.G. Jackson at 6'9". You mentioned Zachary Davis at 6'8", 192 pounds. Verdonk at 6'9", 250.
Jackson was calling for it, had a size advantage inside. Another deep three missed by Johnson, and that is how the half will come to a close. A 30-20 halftime lead for Ole Miss. The Rebels trying to pick up their first win in conference play. 10-point game in Columbia. Let's find out what's going on in the rest of the SEC now and later. Dari and the Pats take it away in studio.
You know we will, Mike and Fish. Good to hear you guys. 30-20 Ole Miss over South Carolina. A couple of big ones coming up. When we're done in Columbia, we'll take you to the Music City for Brandon Miller in Alabama. 4th-ranked team in the land taking on Vanderbilt. Pat Bradley, what excites you most about this game?
This is going to be a three-point shooter's dream.
Oh, boy.
Whoever defends a three-point, you get the top 2 three-point shooting teams in the SEC in conference play matching up.
All right, how about this one then in Lexington, where Georgia, the guys we're talking about, Mike White, may be the Coach of the Year front-runner at this early season point. Georgia 3-1 in league play on the road at Rupp to take on a Kentucky team coming off the big road win Saturday against Tennessee. As we start to dive in a little bit to that one, what Kentucky team are we going to see? That's the question we need to ask. Will it be the one that got blasted by Bama, then lost at home to South Carolina, or the one that held Tennessee to just 56 points, snapping the Vols' 25-game home winning streak? Dari Noka, Pat Bradley, Patrick Young.
SEC Bank here anywhere. Shop now and get today's special offer. Fanatics.com. Officially licensed everything.
5:27 to go. Big spot in this game for the hometown Gamecocks, looking for their first home conference win of the year. Again, the one win coming at Rupp Arena. You see the SEC draft prospects, and it's very similar to that top freshman graphic they were looking at earlier. The names are the same. We don't know what the status of Nick Smith is of Arkansas. We do know Brandon Miller's status. He's having an All-American type season. Wallace of Kentucky, Black of Arkansas, and there's G.G. projected mid-first round at this point, but there's going to be a lot of SEC names called early in the upcoming draft.
That's the resume, that's the perception when you look at SEC basketball, is that it's typically a young league. It's a physical and athletic league, but more than anything, it is a league that produces pro prospects. Yeah. And year in and year out, nothing seems to change, whether it was G.G. Jackson here at South Carolina, Brandon Miller at Alabama, Phillips at Tennessee, a lot of these names that we have just, even when you look at the NBA now, what other league do you have where a sixth man like Devin Booker, when he was at Kentucky, goes and becomes an NBA All-Star?
Well, it's gotten to the point if you watch an NBA game, every game you're watching is going to have an SEC player on one of the rosters, if not both. I'm going to add one more freshman to that list, by the way, that I am growing in love with game by game, and that's Noah Clowney. Alley-oop is missed. McInnes could not get it to go through the hoop. Brown on the other end.
4-point swing.
See if the Gamecocks dial up pressure. Morrell left alone, says, okay, I'm going to take a crack at it, and hits it.
Huge.
16 now for Matthew Morrell to lead all scorers.
Those are the kind of three-point shots that give him confidence for the next 3 or 4 games.
He's 4 for 10 from behind the arc now. Carter, that's going to be a goaltend. No 2 for Carter.
And out of that timeout, Coach Lamont Paris has made the right decision. We talked about the game pressure, right? So he realized there was only a few possessions left in this game. He had to speed the Rebels up in order to give his team a chance to win the basketball game, and he's doing that. Let's see how the Rebels handle this pressure.
The Rebels going to exhibit some patience here. It's Abram at the timeline, hounded by Johnson. Abram, drive and kick, ball movement. Morrell again, he's been hot. He stays hot. Matthew Morrell with his 5th three-pointer of the night and 19 points.
Watch out, Southeastern Conference. From a man who struggled from the three-point line, we know what he's done with the twos. If he starts knocking down this three, Ole Miss Rebels' trajectory in regards of a team can change drastically.
Jackson on a strong take. He'll go to the line for a pair, and we will step aside with 3:52 to go.
9th career game with 4 three-pointers or more for Matthew Morrell. And right now, he is taking the life. Out of Colonial Life Arena.
In studio, they've reached the half in Starkville, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. State led by as many as 9. Julian Phillips, though, going to tie this up at 23. Tennessee a 6-0 run to end the half.
Tennessee Volunteers trying to bounce back after a tough home loss to the Kentucky Wildcats. One of these teams will have something positive to celebrate. Both teams can certainly use it. Gamecocks 1-3 in league play. Ole Miss still in search of their first league win. This will be a big one for Kermit Davis and company to go on the road and beat a team that they've had some trouble with, including last year when they lost in overtime at home on a half-court buzzer beater. Kermit Davis, you feel, you and I get the access to these coaches. We get to know the coaches. Most of them, if not all of them, are so likable in different ways. And in the case of Kermit Davis, I mean, you feel for, you mentioned the injuries, the tough losses they've had this year, and eventually this team is going to get some type of momentum and flow going. It always starts with that one elusive win that could come tonight.
Well, and right now, if you're the Ole Miss Rebels and you're Coach Kermit Davis, you got to be proud of the way your team's played. 10 of 24 from behind that three-point line, that makes a huge difference. And the fact that G.G. Jackson and Michi Johnson have struggled is because of the defense that Coach Kermit Davis and the Rebels have played. And so they came in prepared. They didn't look at the record and say, okay, we think we can walk in here and win this basketball game. They've played well.
G.G. splits the freebies. Gigi and Michi a combined 4 for 21 from the field.
And see, that's the kind of plays that, if you're Kermit Davis, makes you pull your hair out. A 3-on-1 break. Jamin Brakefield could have thrown it to the right or the left, but instead a 3-on-1 goes right down and creates a charge.
And you kind of got the feeling if they get a bucket there,
oh yeah,
that's a dagger. Yeah, I mean, it's like all of a sudden now you're down 14. It's under 4 minutes to play. Give the Gamecocks a little bit of life here. If they can score on this possession. Gigi going to work one-on-one, gliding and firing. That's just a force.
Yeah, he's still trying to figure it out. He's young, trying to go one-on-one. The athleticism, the elite level of play in this league is going to continue to make it challenging for him. He's going to have to be more patient and work with his teammates more.
Alley-oop on the other end, and that time it does drop for McInnes. He's got 12, and the lead is 14 with 3 to play. Step back 3, it's been that kind of night. Step back 3, it's been that kind of night for Michi and Gigi.
South Carolina, 4 of 18, I believe, from behind the three-point line. You see it right there. Huge difference in the basketball game.
Michi does force a turnover on Abram.
Amari Abram there with the right decision, right? Much different than Brakefield on the previous play.
There's 16 assists on their 21 field goals.
Coach Kermit Davis was screaming, let's play. He wants to get this win and get out of here.
Free ball from the top. Ole Miss now. Carter picks up the foul, and that is the 7th foul. So a 1-and-1 for the Rebels.
You know, we talked about this, Mike. We talked about rebounding with Coach Kermit Davis at the shoot-around, and I think that's been more of a difference than maybe we've talked about tonight. I don't know, maybe 9, 10 plus rebounding edge is my guess.
12.
12, wow.
Yeah.
And there's the rebounding edge. This time, wow.
Yeah.
And there's the rebounding edge. This time of the year, when games can become mundane in the schedule, shoot around, practice, another game, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, Saturday, I mean, you know,
just his whole
that's
disposition.
what keeps teams, Saturday, I mean, you know, that's what keeps teams ahead. And I think we've seen something from Ole Miss tonight.
Well, and you always wonder, and I know it sounds, well, and you always wonder, and I know it sounds easy. Well, I mean, that's what you're here for, to play ball. Why wouldn't you give max effort? We've seen teams go into a tailspin, the body language starts taking a dip. The effort is not always what you want, and all of a sudden it can just snowball. It can avalanche on you if you're not careful. Never saw any of that. It can avalanche on you if you're not careful. Never saw any of that from Ole Miss tonight. There was no selfishness, max effort from the opening tip, and they came in determined to pick up their first conference win. There's an and one for Brown. No let up in Hayden Brown's game, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's playing with a thigh contusion. He's actually got a plane with a thigh contusion. He's actually got a pad on his left leg. See that if you look real close at that left leg, which he actually takes off of. So give him a lot of credit. Carrying a lot of weight, 6'5", 234, and playing through some pain to try to help his team out tonight.
Completes the three-point play. Back to a 13-point game. Gamecocks will heat it up defensively. And that will be number 5 on Brown. So he fouls out. Ole Miss a trip to the free throw line. I mentioned there's a lot of things that you can look at with the Ole Miss roster, and it's hard not to like some of the parts. You know, they don't have maybe a first-round draft pick on their roster. They don't have a superstar in that regard. What they have is a consistent scorer, Matthew Morrell, who played outstanding tonight.
Right.
And you've got two freshmen that are coming along because you don't know Deshaun, even when he gets over his current illness, how much longer it's going to take him to be back to the explosive Deshaun Ruffin we saw a year ago.
Right.
They've got rebounders now, and it seems like they're connected. So you add all that up, and you say to yourself, why not Ole Miss making a run this year?
Sure. And I think even when Deshaun Ruffin does come back, nice shot by G.G. Jackson, not quite out of here yet. Even when Deshaun Ruffin does come back, maybe he plays more of a Javon Quinterly role, right?
Right.
Javon Quinterly's taking a back seat a little bit to Mark Sears and Bradley, playing a mentor role, but it's working. He's doing whatever he can to help the team win.
Now, gymnastics takes over the SEC network every Friday night. This week it starts with number 12 Missouri visiting number 13 LSU. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And the night caps off with number 25 Arkansas visiting Olympic all-around champion Sunisa Lee. And number 7 Auburn. Both meets are also available on the ESPN app.
Did you see that matchup between them and the Florida Gators? Actually, before we did that Florida Gator game,
yeah,
what a matchup, right?
It was and when we got done with the basketball game, couldn't help but noticing the traffic that was coming from all the people leaving.
It was a packed house.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely jam-packed. I think it was a record crowd in Gainesville for a gymnastics meet. Those that give it a shot on Friday night turn into an instant fan of our gymnastics coverage, that's for sure. Some of the best in the SEC.
Number 5, James White, really has made a huge impact tonight. He's kind of been the silent assassin. You talked about what they had, a consistent scorer in Matthew Morrell, and they have some depth. They have veteran players. What they needed more than anything was a guy who can knock down some shots, a guy who could bring some confidence and swagger. And this young freshman did tonight. His numbers, I don't think, indicate how much value he brought to this team.
Yeah, again, he showed some signs late last year that had you thinking, man, maybe James White is ready to just have a breakthrough season.
Sure.
And it didn't start off that way for whatever reason. Doesn't mean it can't finish that way. Morrell in search of point number 21 on the night. Left it short. Gotta have it if you're Carolina. That won't get it done. A turnover. Here comes White. Full throttle. Alley-oop, and then the finish by Morrell. Exclamation point right there.
They could be elite when they get in transition too, Mike. A lot of times they turn it over, and so I know Coach Davis doesn't love them to get out in transition to where they are careless and turn it over. But man, when they get out and you allow them to go straight line drives, they're an exciting basketball team. I mean, you look from the turnover, boom, look at the explosion. It is a track meet upstairs, jam by Matthew Morrell. That's more of the action that the Rebels need, Mike.
That looks like a Kermit Davis team. Defense, creating offense, creating transition, easy bucket.
He had those type of guys, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", at Middle Tennessee. He'd go to that 1-3-1 zone. They were tough as nails. They played hard.
Seven points for the freshman, Abram. Here's Jackson on the attack.
That's tough.
That is why G.G. Jackson is projected to be a first-round draft pick. There's just not a whole lot of 6'9" guys that can do this.
So this is a guy just saying, I'm going to get me a basket. Between the legs a couple of times, through 3 defenders. I'm taller, I'm stronger, I'm athletic enough. I'm agile enough and skilled enough to get a basket when I want to.
Now, you know what Lamont Paris is probably going to say. You could do more of that, young man. He wants him to be more aggressive.
Yeah. Well, he could live from the free throw line versus settling from a jump shot. Good pass.
In the front court, White beats the secondary and finishes with a two-hand flush. Lane Kiffin will be proud of that play. Strong take, the miss, and then there's the follow by Davis. Under a minute to play, Ole Miss is on the verge of picking up its first conference win of the year.
And not only a win, this is a pretty convincing win, right? I thought South Carolina made a nice run coming out in the second half, cut the lead to, 4 or 6 points. But then Ole Miss really answered the bell.
It was a tough non-con slate for Ole Miss. Had some tough losses before they eventually got into conference play. They played a game against UCF. They were down 21-0. And it was just one of those deals where nothing was clicking, nothing was going right. The great thing is, college basketball, you got 30 games.
That's right.
There's 30 different data points to figure things out.
Well, and you also think about one of their non-conference wins against Florida Atlantic. And that win's starting to look really good right now for the Ole Miss Rebels.
It really is. FAU in the top 25. The Owls from the mean streets of Boca Raton, Florida.
I figure you have one of your houses down there. One of your mini homes, Mike.
If I had that situation, I might not be sitting here next to you, Fish, as much as I love you. They're getting the time right, we're just told by the officiating crew. And Jackson at the line for a pair. Mentioned Gigi's father, a big influence. Was a great football player. Had to stop playing football because he was getting ulcers. And his mom told him, he said, no, you're not playing football anymore, son. We're not taking any more gambles. So he stopped that, got very involved with his church, and it's been a big influence on Gigi's life. A lot of athleticism in that family, though. Gigi's going to have a chance to shine. Don't let this game tell the whole story, because Gigi Jackson's going to have a lot of great games in this conference this year. Sometimes it's just simply not your night.
That's right, and he's continuing to learn on the job, which is what all freshmen have to do. The reality is, for Gigi Jackson in South Carolina, if he doesn't have a good night, their chances of winning decrease tremendously. And that's not the situation across the rest of the SEC. I would say for any other freshman like it is for him.
Yeah, everybody's got a different level of pressure. Okay, 2 misses, and based on that ovation, I'm wondering if somebody's getting like a free taco or something. What do we got here? Oh,
Chick-fil-A.
Free Chick-fil-A. I mean, come on. That's a win. That is a win. With 49 seconds to go, some happy fans are walking away with something free from Chick-fil-A. Fish, if you go out there and hit 2 in a row, I think we should all get free Chick-fil-A as well. Morrell still at 22 points now after the miss. Don't forget Thursday night's SEC women's basketball doubleheader highlighted by the top teams in the league. Aaliyah Boston, number 1 South Carolina taking on Vandy at 7 o'clock Eastern. Then Angel Reese at number 3 LSU hosts 17-3 Arkansas. All right here on the SEC Network. Final 45 seconds. Jackson can't finish with the left. keep on with the free throw barrage here with 39.4 on the clock. What about that game after us, Fish? What about Alabama? I mean, when are we going to see some vulnerability on the court with Alabama? Because right now, the way they are rolling 6 in a row, taking down teams. I mean, they're not just beating teams, they're annihilating teams.
Sure. Well, I'm anxious to see this game tonight because when you look at the Commodores who just knocked off Arkansas, they put up 94 points.
Right.
And so the first thing you have to be able to do to beat Alabama is you've got to be able to score some points.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're going to do. You're not going to keep an Alabama team in the 50s and 60s. Second of all, you've got to be able to defend and try to score inside. They've got a couple of bigs, in particular, Dan Robbins, who can go inside and out. Kind of like this guy right here. Bigger and stronger. But I think this game tonight is going to be more of a test than most people believe.
Another deep pass. Again, White on the receiving end, but he missed it at close range. 11-point game. 22 seconds and counting. Jackson sizes up a rainbow three. And a final foul, we think, with 13 seconds to go in an 11-point game.
Well, there was a lot that was probably planned in the studio. But I just want to tell both of the Pats and Dari to relax.
Yeah.
For everything they had planned, it looks like we've got a quality game coming up, and so they can save that for tonight.
That's
SEC
right.
Now, whatever they were going to show.
That's right. Ole Miss has led this game from start to finish. Carolina made a run beginning of the second half. Looked like it might come down to the wire, and then Ole Miss just pulling away. As they will pick up their first league win of the season and improve to 9-9 overall. Final possession. Jackson going to measure another three. And that is how this one will come to a close. Rebels, big win on the road, 70-58, your final score. Congratulations to Kermit Davis and Ole Miss. Fish, some final thoughts.
Well, from what I've seen from the Ole Miss Rebels in their first 5 games, and then what I see tonight, there's not a new sheriff, but some new Rebels in town. I think they're going to be ready for SEC play.
70-58, your final score. That'll do it for us. Coming up next, don't forget Alabama and Vanderbilt. For Damian Fishback and our entire SEC Network crew, Mike Morgan saying so long from the capital city.
All right, guys, thank you much. And to Fish's point there, what we like to say is they tried to kill the fill. We had much more for you. We do expect to talk to Matthew Morrell, who put up nice 23 points, 2 shy of his season high, as Ole Miss got its first win. Quick take here, first conference win.
Well, it was the perfect game, I guess you would say, for Ole Miss to find their groove. You're going against a South Carolina team that's last in three-point defensive percentage as well as field goal percentage defensively. So Ole Miss found the groove. They played great team offense. Good to see Matthew Morrell. He struggled sometimes at getting his shot off, getting to the paint, but he played phenomenal game. McKinnis did a great job in the paint as well. Overall, great win for Kermit Davis and the Rebels.
Their offense looked great. What Kermit Davis wants to do is start his offense above the three-point line, above the free throw line, spacing. The ball didn't stick. Quick ball cuts, player movement. That's how you get a really good look at offense here. And you see all the movement. Patrick, guys coming off ball screens, tight curls. So it was just a really good offensive game for Ole Miss.
Yeah, this was the beginning of their 8-0 run right here. Just the ball touch the paint, get it back out to Caldwell, make this three. That was great, picture-perfect offense for anybody in the SEC.
Yeah, again, 10 of 24 from 3 and break a 6-game losing streak to the Rebels. Time now to bring in Matthew Morrell, 23 points against season high 25. Almost got that. Let's talk about what you guys as a team were talking about coming in. Hadn't won a conference game, 6 straight losses overall, not where you want to be. So what were the conversations like coming into a game you knew you guys could get?
Just staying positive. You know, we started off SEC play, not how we wanted to. But, you know, we just got to keep working. We keep telling each other it's a long season. You know, you can quickly turn around. And, you know, we're going to use this win for momentum going into our next game.
Matt, what has been your leadership approach in the midst of facing this adversity, continue to help your guys stay motivated and coming in and fighting to win games like this in the midst of, season didn't start out the way you wanted?
Just keeping everybody positive. It's easy to come in 0-5 and everybody just get negative and get complacent with losing. But, just coming into practice every day, trying to be the loudest voice, hard-working person I can, and just lifting everybody up.
For you personally, Matthew, you had a fantastic game. What was it that you saw against South Carolina's defense that you were able to take advantage of?
Coming in the game, we were just our focus was attacking the paint, getting paint touches. And as you see, my teammates was able to get paint touches, and I was able to get kick-out threes, and we were just able to play in the break.
So you guys shot really well from three. Down the stretch, I know free throws in a closer game could have absolutely got you. What do you expect Kermit to tell you when you get back to that locker room?
He's definitely going to be us about free throws. He's probably going to take 20 minutes in next practice shooting free throws.
14 for 26. Those were the numbers you're about to hear when you go back in there. Matthew, good stuff, man. We do appreciate you. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
They were 10-24 from a three-point line, though.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
5 a game on average.
And
so.
a lot of that was a good job of you picking out that play.